Hey everybody, great to see you here again at the Red Barn. In this episode, we are going to continue working on our Ferrari 360 Swap 914, which, by the way, check it out. It's got some gold Ronalds on it. My buddy Robert needed to borrow some spacers that were on that car, and so I said, hey, I got to be able to roll it around. Anyway, he loaned me his Ronalds just to put it on the ground, and it's like, who wears it better? Gold on primer or anthracite on primer? Oh, look at that. Bodywork started on the car. It's going to look great in paint. Anyway, in this episode, let's see how far I get on prepping that engine compartment to get it ready to put the engine back in one more time before we try to fire it. Oh, and stay tuned at the end. We got some kitty updates. Hope you enjoy. All right, so a couple things before we get started with this week's episode. One was oftentimes I have stuff in the background of some of these shots, and people are like, hey, what's going on with that? And somebody noticed this Fender Bassman amp and said, what's going on with that? So what's going on with this is I've got a good buddy who's a guitar player, musician, and instrument collector, and he is rebuilding these things with some kind of modernized electronics, and he's changing some stuff. I don't know exactly what the application is, but he said, hey, I don't need all these switches. I need a couple of other things added to it. Can you make me up a panel? And so I whipped up a quick design. And another job for our friends at Send Cut Send, not just automotive stuff, but now we're getting into musical instrument fabrication. So that's what that was doing in the background. And then I've gotten a couple comments saying that I could do things faster and cheaper if I used a bead roller to make these panels that you saw me make with the stamping dies last time. And I would tell you that, not if you're me. I'm not that good with a bead roller. And just from a practical perspective, maybe this will help some of you if you get into this business. This is 188 thousandths thick. So this is not insignificant amounts of material to move. And when there's only this much material to start with and you're trying to pull a significant percentage of it down into this, there's going to be a bunch of distortion happening right here, as well as around the panel. Anytime you do you're pulling material from somewhere else, it's going to change the shape. It's going to distort the panel, and that has to be corrected. You can pre-stretch where the bead's going to be and all that, but like I said, I'm not that good. I mean, I have a bead roller, and it's a nice bead roller, and you saw me use it quite effectively. If you look back on the 914 factory 914-6 episodes where I made that oil cooler shroud. So I'm okay with the bead roller. I'm not an expert, but what I love about these panel stamps, and maybe I should have called it out when I was doing the stamping, but as it's doing its thing and that panel is starting to distort all the way around the outside, when this thing first starts stamping the shape that I've got here, by the time this completes and this thing is pushed all the way down and forced, that material is being sandwiched, it corrects virtually 100% of the distortion around that panel. And I mean, as evidenced by those panels come out, they go in the car, and we're done. And there's no other secondary process to get any of the distortion corrected. So, if you can use your bead roller and it works for you, stick with your bead roller by all means. This works for me, and I found it really, really effective. So I'm going to stick with panel stamping and all, but like I said in the 914-6 oil shroud episode, there are absolutely times where I love the bead roller, but for this particular application, I'm a stamping die guy all the way. That top piece is now tacked in, but that's a really nice fit, and I think by the time that gets dressed, I can probably hammer this a little bit more around the corner as I'm going, but that should be pretty good. And then after in and out of the car 150 times, that side is fabbed. The main panel is fully welded, same thing up the inside, all that good stuff, and the top panel is just tacked in right now. So I'm taking a break, and I've got, both sides-ish done. So now I'm just going to grind off the remnants of the previous chassis stiffening elements. And with those remnants sanded off of where the strut used to be. And remember, that strut was to support the suspension console, but with the engine cradle that bolts here onto the bottom of the suspension ear and has the 2 bars that run all the way up to that mount, having another strut in there was completely unnecessary. And I got this edge all final welded and dressed. And you can see now, this is all kind of one piece looking. I'll probably seam seal, you know, this area, tidy it up, and then there'll be just a little bit of a wipe of seam sealer down there to fillet that. And yeah, so that's all finished and ready to go. And this side is, this part's done. Again, seam sealer here, but I have yet to do the final weld here. But I did knock off the strut, the remnants of the struts in both those locations. And I'll probably hit this with some body filler and, you know, sand it, and, you know, or some high build primer just to tidy this whole thing up. And when this gets all painted, you know, body color, man, I think it's gonna look really, really good. So. All right, that panel is all welded down this seam, and I got a couple of little, these areas done, but now I got to dress this and get it all tidied up. So that's taken care of. And then I've got the vacuum canister that has this other mount that's hidden down in the corner that I need to make a standoff from the firewall before I can get to that. So that's going to take a second. And then the next thing I'm doing is I want to go after this bulkhead pass-through panel for the wiring. And that I went back to Send Cut Send and had them bend it. Well, they didn't bend it, I bent it, but they made me up this center plate, if you want to call it that. You can see that it's thicker material on the sides and the back, and then I just welded in these sections here, this thin section that'll also weld to the chassis. But reason I did this is because I didn't like what I had. I had that piece of box tubing and it wasn't quite right. And anyway, this is a little thicker because I had them drill and tap according to the specs, and everything looks beautiful. It works perfectly. So this is super awesome and cool. And then this will get placed in here. It's a super tight fit, so I can't just cram it in there. This will get placed in here and welded in. And that 1-inch standoff means that the wiring harness, as it's coming up to the firewall, it sets in and the wires lay right against the base of the firewall, so it's much tidier. And then what I think I'm going to put the battery, instead of putting the battery in here, I want as much room for the air boxes. So my going forward plan is I'm just going to block these off for now. These are the battery cable pass-throughs. I think I'm just going to block these off with the goal of eventually just weld that new panel in there and get rid of those. And the battery in the front is going to give me better weight distribution anyway. And so you can see, if I take you through the pass-through, you can see I've already got the cables running up through that part of the chassis and hooked to the ECU there. Pardon the wiring mess, but I'm just playing with battery box location in the front trunk. And so let me get this dressed, and I want to get this pass-through welded in here now. And then I just tidied that up, as you saw, with that sanding disc and a DA to knock that weld seam down, and it turns out really nice. And I just squirted some cheapy primer on there, rattle can primer, to protect it. It shows up some of the flaws, so I am going to go after that with either high build primer. There's probably a little bit of body working that needs to be done right there in that corner where the stamped panel meets that support structure. There's a little bit of an indent based on how I rounded it over there, so I could have done a better job on that, kind of like right there. There's a little bit of an indent, and I think I can fix that. But for the most part, it looks pretty good. And then there's the other side, primed as well, and kind of ready to go. You can see a little bit of body work needed on that corner, kind of going down there. But I think I can correct that and make it pretty. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with that. Oh, then the one other thing I think I'm going to do, just because, is this back side is really ugly, and given how nice the front side looks, I think I'm gonna plate. I still have to do the underside still too, but I think I'm gonna build a plate that goes from there and there and just covers that whole leg, so that whole thing will just be, a nice bulky looking piece that'll be nicely painted, and it'll look a million times better than that, even though you'll never see it. So now back to getting that done and that done. And there's the pass-through all welded. And these panels are not flat. This firewall was replaced, and if you see how it got put in, I did not do this, but it's inset from this panel here, and it's outboard of this panel here, and then it's kind of even with it here. So this is partly not straight, this was partly not straight. Doesn't really matter, it's all going to be upholstered and all that. But as you saw, this got a little bit of filler rod here and here, but I was able to fuse weld essentially most of the top and bottom because it was a nice tight fit. So this is all but done. And then as you can see, if I drag the harness back here, you can see that with that inset, this wiring lays right down against this inner firewall. So there's virtually no room taken up by the harness, which is what I wanted. And then from this side, not much to see, but it's welded in. I'll put a little seam sealer around this side, and that part's done. All right, then getting on to the vacuum accumulator, I realized that if I just made a different mount for it, I could move the mount from this needed offset, hard to make part to just another bracket or another mounting position that wasn't playing with the rest of them, and just another fastener on the firewall would do it. So I made up this cool little bracket and was about ready to weld it on, and realized that the vacuum accumulator is made of aluminum, not steel. So didn't bother filming any of this, but there you can see this little angly bracket that comes up off the boss in the back, ties onto the firewall, and those other two fasteners have that located. So getting to the point where I still have to work up the shifter cable pass through. But other than that, I'm pretty much done with the fabrication in the engine compartment relative to having the motor go back in and getting it fired. So I think at least for this episode, I'm gonna call it. Oh, stay tuned. There's some kitty stuff coming right up here. And until next time, I'll say please like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and everybody take care. We'll talk to y'all again real soon. Bye-bye. We're going to try something different this time. We're going to come out here first thing in the morning. It's like before 6 o'clock. And we're going to see the little maniacs fresh, and see how it goes right after they wake up.
Hi, little ones.
It's the kitty parade.
You're so little.
Oh, everybody showed up.
Hi.
Hi, kitty cats.
Good morning, little sunshine.
Oh, he's
kitty.
climbing up my leg already. Hi, buddy. Let's go inside.
Hi, little kitties.
Here they come.
How is everybody? Oh, so excited.
It's maniacals.
So excited.
Wah! There's Bash.
And I set up a playground for him.
Oh, here comes the playground. Oh, the tunnel.
We bring out a tunnel.
Yeah, it's great for these guys to get
They love to play. Well, they have so much energy.
stimulated. Yeah, right? Oh boy, here comes the tunnel. What is that? Oh boy. There's Fiesta. Hi guys, what are you doing?
Hello, Hi. Hi. What's your black paper?
There's Shindig. And the other tabby here is Jubilee. Hi, Jube. This is the talker. Oh, see what I mean? Hi. Oh, there's that squeaker. That squeak. Oh, and she's purring up a storm just like that. There's Fiesta. Everybody wants to come say hi. Oh, get me. Pop, 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 pop. Hi.
And you're purring.
Yep, that was Jubilee.
Well, hi, little mister. Hi, little mister. Oh, he's the big boy. Hi. Good morning.
And there is Kitty Energy for the week.